Hi, I'm Paula.
I'm David.
Welcome to David's Wealth of Knowledge. Today's topic is the early history of computers. David, please tell us about what you know.
Okay, so now computers is something we're all familiar with. Okay, we use computers every day. Our smartphones are basically mini computers, but we know it hasn't always been like this. So, way back in the early Bronze Age and so on and so forth, there were various tools developed to do calculations and so on and so forth. One of the more interesting things is what's known as the Antikythera mechanism, which dates back to maybe between 200 BC and about 70 BC, somewhere around there. A very interesting piece of technology, purely mechanical, but quite advanced for the time, and nothing similar has been found dating back to the time, and nothing similar to it was built until perhaps the 14th century. Okay, so along the way with various things we've developed, all mechanical things like slide rules and so on, but computers as we know them, okay, where you have inputs, you have memory, you have programs that can be executed, date back essentially to a guy named Charles Babbage. Okay, in 1822 he developed what's known as the difference engine, which was used to calculate logs and various other mathematical functions, but it was a little bit limited, and it was never actually built in the end because of issues, politics and economics, and Babbage basically fell out with his engineer who was in charge of the project. So that was in 1822. In 1833, though, he proposed what became known as the analytical engine. Okay. Now, this essentially was the genesis of what we know as a modern computer. Computers are described in various ways, but Alan Turing, the great mathematician who propelled maths and computing, came up with a description of a computer where it has a arithmetic logic unit. It has a computational flow, so it can do loops, and it can be programmed. It has an internal memory, and a computer that matches these things is known as Turing complete. And the design for the analytical engine was essentially a Turing complete design. Unfortunately, once again, there was a falling out with engineers and money and so on, and Babbage never actually got to build this analytical engine. But Babbage himself is actually a fascinating character, where I'll talk about another time. But so he developed essentially the basic design for the modern computer. As a side note, okay, he worked with a woman named Ada Lovelace. Now, she's often described as the first computer programmer because she supposedly wrote programs for his analytical engine. There's some arguments here and there about her exact contributions, but one of the things she spoke about, okay, is the ability for a computer to do things beyond maths, okay, looking at things like music and pictures, something we take for granted, okay. So, her contribution might not have been as great in terms of being the first actual computer programmer. Her vision for what was possible is certainly worth noting. Okay, so Babbage designed the analytical engine, but like I said, unfortunately he didn't manage to actually build one. Okay, so one of the key things that Babbage introduced is the ability to load programs into it. Okay, at the time there were Jacobin machines used in cotton mills, which were programmed, everyone called it that, using punch cards, and he used the same technique essentially for the analytical engine. Now, over time, various other things were designed, developed. But the modern computer, as we know it, okay, essentially rose in the 1940s, okay, with a guy named Carl Zeiss, Z-U-S-E, who designed essentially the world's first electric computer. But that's a talk for another day, okay. So essentially, we can go right back and look at the early developments, which were all mechanical, from things like slide rules and so on and so forth, up to the analytical engine, and further developments until 1940, which were generally all mechanical, until 1940s when the first electronic computer was developed. Okay, and so I'll tell you more about that next time.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Please like and subscribe.